years after Dumbledore left Harry Potter with his uncle and aunt the Dursleys, Harry started attending Hogwarts. Not as happy as Dumbledore might have hoped, considering the neglect he had faced at the hands of his intolerant aunt and uncle, but alive and well. That year, Lord Voldemort formulated a plan to regain human form. Dumbledore and his friend Nicholas Flamel, the only known maker of Philosopher's Stone, began to suspect that the sunbent Dark Lord was plotting to steal the invaluable object, which would be capable of restoring him to full power. Dumbledore had the stone removed to a medium security vault at Gringotts Wizarding Bank, but later had it moved to Hogwarts itself. Coincidentally, on the same day that an attempted break-in was made upon the vault, it was retrieved by Hagrid, who was also taking Harry to buy his school supplies. Dumbledore and several teachers, McGonagall, Flitwick, Sprout, Snape, and dubiously Quirrell at Hogwarts, planted magical security methods to protect the stone. Albus Dumbledore himself was behind the final and most powerful protection placed upon the stone. He enchanted the Mirror of Erised to contain the Philosopher's Stone, only to be removed by someone who didn't intend to use or possess it, but only keep it from the hands of evil. Dumbledore suspected that the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, Cornelius Quirrell, was behind the plot to steal the Philosopher's Stone. While working for a weekend, Lord Voldemort and such, he asked Snape to keep an eye on him. He also anonymously returned James's Cloak of Invisibility to Harry as a Christmas present. Over a series of nights, Harry Potter proceeded to visit the Mirror of Erised as often as he could see his parents' faces. Dumbledore found Harry visiting the mirror one night, and after explaining to Harry what the mirror was all about, told him that the mirror was to be moved and requested that Harry not going to look for it. Before heading back to bed, Harry asked Dumbledore what he saw when he looked into the mirror. Dumbledore claimed to see himself holding a pair of thick woolen socks, telling Harry that one can never have enough socks. However, Dumbledore was joking, the matter being a very personal one. At first, still yearning for Grindelwald's love, Albus saw himself with his former lover in the mirror. However, after Grindelwald's defeat and having to come back to terms with his past guilt over his sister's death, later in his life Dumbledore would see his family whole and intact, free of any pain or suffering. It is unknown if Grindelwald, as a redeemed man, was included in these later reflections. When Quirrell decided to make his move on getting the Philosopher's Stone, he lured Dumbledore away from the school using a false letter from the Ministry for Magic. The moment Dumbledore was on his way, he was intercepted by an owl from Ron and Hermione, which carried a letter that explained the whole situation. Dumbledore hurried back to the underground chambers and saved an unconscious Harry from Quirrell. In the end, it was Harry who protected the Philosopher's Stone from Quirrell and Voldemort. Voldemort failed for the same reason he had failed to murder Harry previously, due to Lily Potter's love for Harry. When Voldemort, who had possessed the body of Quirrell, ordered his servant to attack the young boy, the sacrificial protection instilled within him at the point of his mother's death killed him and forced the Dark Lord's spirit to flee. When Harry recovered from the ordeal in the hospital wing, he questioned Dumbledore about why Voldemort had tried to murder him as a baby. Dumbledore didn't believe that Harry was ready to know the truth about the prophecy Sybil Trelawney had made, and told him he would know when he was older, although this would actually later turn out to be a mistake. At the end of year 3, Dumbledore awarded an extra 170 house points to Gryffindor students. Harry Potter 60, Ron Weasley 50, Hermione Granger 50, and Neville Longbottom 10, respectively for bravery and logical skills, prompting Gryffindor to win the House Cup, running Slytherin's chance of the cup for his 7th year in a row. This may have shown an amount of bias towards Gryffindor to announce their win in such unusual circumstances. Sometime before the next year began, Dumbledore, having never been fooled by Gilderoy Lockhart's tall tales, figured out the truth on when Lockhart erased the memories of two wizards that Dumbledore personally knew. He realized that Lockhart had gone too far in his desire for fame and decided to track him down and make him pay for his crimes. Having the position of the professor of the defense against the dark arts vacant proved to be useful for Dumbledore, as he offered Lockhart the job, and although Lockhart was reluctant as his career as an author was progressively wear, successfully convinced him by sly hinting that Harry Potter was a second-year student in Hogwarts, causing Lockhart to accept. Having intended for Lockhart to show his ineptitude and fraudulence to the students and thus expose him to the public secretly, Dumbledore's decision was shocking to take by the other staff members, as they never forgot Lockhart as the obnoxious attention seeker back then despite his achievements, with McGonagall asking what the students could possibly learn under a man as vain and celebrity-hungry as Lockhart. Dumbledore, however, skillfully tucked himself out by pointing that Lockhart was the only one who was willing to take it, and also saying that there was a lot to learn from even a bad teacher, what not to do, how not to be. Shortly into the school year of 1992, students again fell under attack from a beast allegedly released from the Chamber of Secrets. Under the influence of Lucius Malfoy, the Hogwarts Board of Governors voted to remove Dumbledore from his position as headmaster when he proved unable to uncover the culprit. Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge also had the groundskeeper Rubeus Hagrid taken to Azkaban, acting under the theory that it had been he who opened the chamber in 1943. It was later revealed that the first-year student Ginny Weasley had come into possession of Tom Riddle's diary, a bewitched object capable of interacting with whoever wrote in it. The diary slowly drained the life force from Ginny, and when the memory it contained was nearly strong enough to take a physical form, it had her journey into the heart of the chamber. However, Harry Potter was able to find the chamber himself, and there defeated the beast that dwelt within, Salazar Slytherin's basilisk. He also destroyed the diary with one of the basilisk's fangs, saving Ginny and defeating the nearly fully formed memory of Riddle. Harry was only able to achieve these feats by displaying an extreme amount of loyalty to Dumbledore, for only someone truly loyal to the headmaster would be capable of summoning his pet Phoenix Fawkes, who provided the tools needed for Potter to defeat Riddle and the basilisk. Dumbledore mysteriously returned to his position as headmaster after the memory of Riddle was revealed as being behind the attacks. He commended both Harry and Ron for solving the mystery, with a special award for services to the school and 200 points each for them. This secured Gryffindor for the House Cup for the second year running, and again ruined the Slytherin's chances, fueling the hatred and rivalry between the two houses. He also secured Hagrid's release from Azkaban by having Ron deliver his release papers via old and cancelled exams as a special treat, much to delight of the students and dismay of Hermione Granger. Lucius Malfoy was also sacked from his position as the governor of Hogwarts, much to Draco's dismay and Harry's satisfaction. However, Dumbledore was privately concerned by the phenomena that Harry described. A mere memory capable of taking physical form was unheard of. Dumbledore then began to suspect that Riddle's diary was in fact a Horcrux, and furthermore, considering the lack of care the Dark Lord had taken in protecting the diary, that he had created more than one. During his final talk with Harry in his office, Dumbledore came close to telling Harry about his connection with Voldemort, but refrained himself from doing so, as he felt that 12 years old was still young to learn the truth, and he wanted Harry to enjoy this night of triumph. The year after, the Ministry of Magic took it upon itself to increase security around Hogwarts. Sirius Black, who had been sentenced to life in Azkaban for murdering Peter Pettigrew and 12 muggles with a single curse, had escaped from the Wizarding prison. The Ministry, afraid that he was going after Harry Potter, placed a large number of Dementors at Hogwarts to try to recapture him. Dumbledore reluctantly tolerated Dementors on school grounds, but refused to allow them within the school itself. However, the Dementors violated Dumbledore's decree when they entered the Quidditch match between Gryffindor and Hufflepuff, causing Harry to fall unconscious and fall from the sky. Dumbledore was able to prevent Harry from hitting the ground and repel the Dementors with the Patronus. As the school year drew to its close, it became clear to Harry and his friends that Sirius Black had been framed for his crimes, committed by Pettigrew, who has been disguised as Scrubbers for 12 years. But Sirius was captured, locked in the highest tower, and sentenced to the Dementor's kiss. Dumbledore instantly believed Harry and his friends about Sirius's innocence, but the Minister did not. Dumbledore was incapable of overruling the Minister's decision despite him being Chief Warlock of the Wizengamot. Instead, Dumbledore told Hermione Granger to use her time turner to save Sirius and in the process Buckbeak as well. Harry and Hermione's rescue mission was a success. Sirius escaped on Buckbeak. The Dementors were removed from the grounds for their attack on Harry and the attempted removal of his soul. During the rescue, Harry also conjured the powerful corporal Patronus that Dumbledore later commented on. Dumbledore saw Remus Lupin, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, off after Snape leaked his identity as a werewolf to the school. Harry was also seeing Lupin off too, and Dumbledore could tell that Harry was troubled. Harry explained how guilty he felt allowing Pettigrew, the real culprit who had framed Sirius, to escape, which coincides with a prediction Trelawney made. Therefore, he feared that he may have indirectly given Voldemort a servant to return him to power. Dumbledore assured Harry that he did a noble thing in saving Pettigrew's life, forging a deep magical bond between them, and he promised Harry that one day he'd be glad he spared Pettigrew. At the end of the year, Dumbledore began to feel uneasy about concealing the truth of Sybil Trelawney's prophecy because even though Harry was still young, he had proven himself to be exceptional, and he would have to be told soon. Before the beginning of the new school year, the first-year Death Eater activity in years broke out at the Quidditch World Cup, causing Dumbledore to suspect that the second rise of Voldemort was near. Later, Hogwarts played host to the first Triwizard Tournament since 1792. It was decided that only students of age would be allowed to enter their names to the Goblet of Fire because of the dangers the tournaments represented at its highest death toll. Dumbledore personally drew an age line around the magical artifact to ensure that this rule would be impossible to break. During this year, Dumbledore employed his old friend Alastor Moody, an ex-Auror, as a new Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Moody took this position only as personal favor to Dumbledore. However, unknown to anybody, a day before Moody was set to arrive at Hogwarts, he was overpowered by Death Eaters Barty Crouch Jr. and Peter Pettigrew. On the orders of Voldemort, Crouch breathed Polyjuice Potion, which he used to impersonate Moody and take his place at Hogwarts. Crouch, in his guise of Moody, successfully fooled the Goblet of Fire and ensured that Harry Potter was chosen as the fourth champion of the Triwizard Tournament. Crouch secretly aided Potter throughout the tournament, so that in the final task it would be him to touch the Triwizard's trophy first, which he had bewitched to become a Porky. When Harry and fellow champion Cedric Diggory touched the trophy at the same time, they were transported to the graveyard of Little Hangleton. There, Diggory was killed on the orders of Voldemort, and Harry's blood was taken as the final ingredient in a potion the Dark Lord used to turn to full power. Using the Porky, Harry was able to escape Voldemort and return to Hogwarts. It was then Crouch, still in the guise of Moody, took Harry from out of Dumbledore's presence, something that real Moody never would have done in such a traumatic situation, that the headmaster realized that it wasn't Moody who had been at the school the whole year. Dumbledore, Snape, and Minerva McGonagall quickly overpowered the Death Eater. It was in that moment that Harry realized exactly why Dumbledore was the only wizard that Voldemort ever feared. Barty then truthfully reveals the entirety of Voldemort's plot and his participation in Under the Influence of Very Treasure. Despite all evidence to the contrary, Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge refused to believe that Lord Voldemort had returned to power and had Crouch subjected to the Dementor's kiss before he could be forced to stand trial before the Wizengamot. Despite this, Dumbledore knew that Voldemort's return was real, and in response to Fudge's failure to act, reformed the Order of the Phoenix, an alliance brought together during the First Wizarding War to fight against Voldemort and his followers. Dumbledore chose to reform the Order as he feared that the start of the Second Wizarding War was lingering and inevitable to happen. Again, Dumbledore was reminded of Harry's exceptional skill and knew that he would surely have to be told of the prophecy soon, but again he chose not to, out of a desire to spare Harry an additional burden. So immediately began to deny Dumbledore and Harry's claims that the Dark Lord had returned, starting a smear campaign designed to slander and vilify them. In particular, Dumbledore was removed from his positions as Chief Warlock of Wizengamot and Supreme Magwimp of the International Confederation of Wizards as punishment for his refusal to stay in line with Ministry's propaganda. Dumbledore professed not to care so long as the Ministry did not eliminate him from Chocolate Frog cards. He confessed that he believed that Fudge's persecution of him was of his own free will and not due to the Emperor's curse, though that was small comfort. Before the beginning of the school year, Dumbledore was made secret keeper of the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix and ensured that Harry Potter's friends did not divulge any information about the Order to him, as he didn't want the Order to be compromised in any way. Dumbledore attended Harry's trial at the Ministry, arriving 3 hours earlier at 5 a.m. by a hand mistake. He presented Arbella Fig for Harry's defense and offered to call Dobby to testify that Harry had not used the Hover charm in 1992 and reminded Fudge that he himself had pardoned Harry's accidental inflation of Marjorie Dursley. He also commented on the unusual behavior of the court, holding a full criminal hearing for a simple case of underage magic. After the Wizengamot had ruled in Harry's favor, Dumbledore left without having so much as spoken to Harry or looked at him. The time came to choose the prefects from the fifth years. Dumbledore considered Harry, but out of sympathy for the ordeals he had faced and the ones still to come, he chose to spare him the added responsibility and pass it on to Ron Weasley. The decision confused some people who had assumed Harry would naturally receive it and would have shown solidarity with the young wizard. Dumbledore had to come to fear the connection that existed between the Dark Lord and Harry, and purposely avoided him throughout the school year. When signs of this connection became increasingly obvious, Dumbledore had Severus Snape attempt to teach Harry the art of occlumency, rather than himself, as he feared that Voldemort may have been able to peer into his mind through his connection to Harry. The Ministry also began to interfere heavily at Hogwarts. They appointed Fudge's senior undersecretary Dolores Umbridge to the post of Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. Umbridge started her reign at Hogwarts by rudely interrupting Dumbledore's start of term feast. Things got progressively worse from there. Umbridge and Fudge slowly passed rules and regulations and siphoned the powers of the headmaster while increasing those of Umbridge herself, until finally Umbridge was granted the new position of High Inquisitor of Hogwarts. In response to Umbridge and the Ministry's refusal to teach practical defense magic, Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, and Ron Weasley created a group of students that met secretly to learn defense against the dark arts. Acting as the leader and teacher, this organization was known as Dumbledore's Army, in order to frighten the Ministry. When this illegal society was uncovered, Dumbledore willingly took the blame, pointing out that it was named Dumbledore's Army, not Potter's Army. While Fudge ordered his arrest, Dumbledore stated that he would not come quietly and easily overpowered his would-be captors with a single spell and went underground, working to aid the Order full-time. Dumbledore's deed, Umbridge was named headmistress of Hogwarts and took full advantage of her position and authority over students and staff alike. Fortunately, as Dumbledore had feared, Voldemort finally acted to use the connection between himself and Harry Potter. Using legilimency, Voldemort created a vision that indicated that his beloved godfather Sirius Black had been captured by Voldemort personally and was being tortured by him within the Department of Mysteries. Harry, Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Luna, and Neville all rushed to the Ministry in the hopes of saving Sirius. However, the 6 students were ambushed by a group of Death Eaters who hoped to force Harry to recover the record of the prophecy made about him and the Dark Lord. Voldemort perceived that it was too dangerous to enter the heart of the Ministry of Magic himself. Fortunately, Severus Snape was able to arrest the order to this, and several members arrived in the Ministry where they battled with the Death Eaters. Voldemort's curse, however, was prevented. Dumbledore quickly animated a golden statue to cover Harry and shield him from the curse. He animated the other statues from Fountain of Magical Brethren to immobilize Bellatrix and alert Ministry officials. With Voldemort having arrived in the Ministry, Dumbledore took the chance to give undeniable evidence to fact that the Dark Lord truly had returned, and fought him both to protect Harry and hold him at bay. Dumbledore displayed his extraordinary magical capabilities as he calmly countered or dodged Voldemort's attacks, and returned with his own assault that steadily forced Voldemort to go on the defensive. Yet Dumbledore was not fighting to kill, a fact which surprised Voldemort. Enough, Dumbledore had managed to trap the Dark Lord with an orb of water just after having been saved by Fawkes, who intercepted a killing curse Voldemort had shot at Dumbledore while the latter was countering the strike of a fiery serpent that Voldemort had conjured. Though Dumbledore had failed to capture or defeat Voldemort, the Dark Lord realized himself that he could not overpower his former teacher, and so abandoned his effort and disapparated. Before Voldemort fled the Ministry, however, he briefly possessed Harry, hoping that Dumbledore would sacrifice the teenager in an attempt to kill him. However, Dumbledore did not take the bait, as he cared for Harry too much to do it. Fortunately, Dumbledore did not have to resort to whatever means he would have needed to remove Voldemort from Harry himself, as the tremendous power of Harry's love dwelt on his grief for his late grandfather inflicted great pain upon Voldemort, and the Dark Lord was forced to remove himself and block his connection. With his failure to retrieve the prophecy and his attempt on Harry's life foiled, Voldemort fled the Ministry with Bellatrix, but not before he was seen by Ministry officials, including Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge. With Dumbledore's credibility realized once more, Fudge was permanently lost. Hack-and-Forth, Dumbledore successfully ensured that Fudge removed Umbridge, pardoned Hagrid so he could return to Hogwarts, and he himself would be reinstated as headmaster. Once he was back at Hogwarts, Dumbledore consulted with the distraught Harry, explaining the meaning of his connection with Voldemort and asserting the meaning of the prophecy. Before the end of the year, he also had the Inquisitorial Squad disbanded and reverted any damage they did. During the summer of 1996, Dumbledore tracked one of Voldemort's Horcruxes to the House of the Gaunts. Dumbledore journeyed to Little Hangleton, where he found the remains of the shack hidden behind weeds and bush. Voldemort had placed many powerful enchantments around the former home of his ancestors. However, Dumbledore proved skillful enough to pass through them unharmed. When he found the Horcrux, a ring formerly owned by Marvolo Gaunt, he saw that the stone in the ring was one of the Deathly Hallows, the Resurrection Stone. Stone, according to legend, had the power to revive the dead, but in reality a spiritual form of the person was brought back instead, much like an echo. His desire to see his family overrode his common sense for just a moment, and he placed the ring on his finger, forgetting that the ring had been cursed by Voldemort. The curse quickly spread, and were it not for his own prodigious talents, he would have died within moments. Despite this injury, Dumbledore proceeded to destroy the ring, and with it a piece of Voldemort's soul, bringing Voldemort that much closer to defeat. Dumbledore quickly returned to Hogwarts, where the skills of Severus Snape managed to trap the courage in Dumbledore's hand. However, both Snape and Dumbledore knew that it would eventually spread to the rest of his body. Knowing that the curse would kill him, Dumbledore asked Snape that when the time came, that he be the one to end Dumbledore's life, rather than Draco Malfoy. Malfoy had been given the task of assassinating the headmaster. In order to spare Draco's soul from being torn, Snape had to be the one to do it. Snape later objected to the plan, but was reminded by Dumbledore that it was the only way to spare him from great suffering. During this time, Dumbledore also shared his insights on Voldemort with Harry by showing him the various memories he had collected, giving Harry a greater knowledge of Voldemort's psychology that would help him in future conflicts. Throughout the 1996-1997 school year, Dumbledore passed on certain pieces of information to Harry that would be important for the boy in his quest to destroy the Dark Lord. Dumbledore held private lessons with Harry, revealing in them much of what he had learned about Voldemort's past, life, and Horcruxes. Dumbledore revealed to Harry that he made it his business to try and find out about Voldemort's past. He did this by questioning people who had known him as a child and a teenager, and obtained Voldemort-related memories from them. He collected memories from Bog Ogden, Morphing God, Horace Lacquer, and the house elf Hockey. Using these memories, along with some of his own, he discovered that Voldemort had created 6 Horcruxes, an unheard-of event, being guilty of murders that he framed for others, and also figured out that Horcruxes could be based on Voldemort's ego and his long interest in Hogwarts. Tom Riddle's diary, Gollum's ring, Hufflepuff's cup, Slytherin's locket, Nagini, and an object of Rowena Ravenclaw's later revealed to be her lost diadem. They dismissed the idea of a Gryffindor artifact as unlikely as only the Sorting Hat and the Sword of Gryffindor remained as items from Gryffindor himself, and Voldemort did not have access to them. After much searching, Dumbledore eventually tracked another of Voldemort's Horcruxes to a cave that as a young orphan he had once visited. As he had promised, Dumbledore allowed Harry Potter to accompany him to the cave and help destroy the Horcrux. Setting off from Hogwarts on an evening in late June 1997, he and Harry apparated to just outside the cave, being unable to enter directly due to its prospective enchantments. Once inside, Dumbledore located the Horcrux's second line of defense, a hidden doorway which only opened when it received an offering of blood. The next found themselves in a vast chamber containing an underground lake, with a solitary island at its center from which a faint green light was visible. After a failed attempt by Harry at summoning the Horcrux, Dumbledore located a carefully concealed bolt that would allow them safe passage across the lake. During the crossing, Harry learned of the Horcrux's third line of defense. The lake was filled with Inferi, which would attack anyone who touched the lake's water. Dumbledore instructed Harry on the use of fire as a weapon of choice against the Inferi, should it become necessary. Arriving at a small island, they found a basin filled with glowing green potion. The last defense could not be removed by vanishing it or scooping it out. Someone would have to drink it to get to the Horcrux that lay within. Dumbledore ordered Harry to help him drink all of the potion, no matter what effects it caused, even if Harry had to force it down Dumbledore's throat. Dumbledore drank and he saw a vision of the duel between him, Gellert Grindelwald and Aberforth Dumbledore, and Ariana's death. The drink also was weakening him and made him extremely thirsty as well, and caused him great pain. The whole purpose of this potion, he could not bear it, but Harry succeeded at getting it down his throat by telling him it would be over soon. On his last drink, he fell unconscious. After a failed attempt by Harry to restrain him with Renervate, Dumbledore woke up after his period of unconsciousness wanting water. Harry then attempted to summon water for Dumbledore with the water-making spell, but this proved ineffective as the cavern was enchanted to vanish summoned water. In desperation, Harry filled up a cup with water from the lake. Harry was only able to tip the water over Dumbledore's face before the Inferi climbed out of the lake and attacked them. Harry panicked and attempted to fight back with a multitude of spells and curses, including the Impediment, Jinx, and Sector Sempra curse. But none of them worked, since the Inferi were too numerous and had no blood to spill. Dumbledore, having regained consciousness, created a ring of fire around them that repelled the Inferi, driving them back into the lake, while he and Harry escaped in the boat with the Horcrux. Harry used a small cut on his arm to reopen the hidden doorway, and once outside the cave they dissipated back to the Hogsmeade. They would have found no rest there, however, as the Battle of the Astronomy Tower had already begun. Harry and Dumbledore took brooms from behind Madame Rosmerta's bar and fled to the Astronomy Tower. Once at the Astronomy Tower, Dumbledore and the invisibility-cloaked Harry were confronted by Draco Malfoy. Before Harry could reveal himself, Dumbledore immobilized him with a silent full-body bind cord, making it so he could only watch the upcoming event. Malfoy disarmed Dumbledore and admitted that he, Draco, was behind the series of attacks on Hogwarts students, and that Voldemort had ordered him to kill Dumbledore. Dumbledore revealed that he knew of Draco's mission and of the attempts on his life with the opal necklace and poisoned mead, but allowed him to remain in Hogwarts for knowing Voldemort would kill him if he was exposed and expelled. Dumbledore offered Draco protection and promised to hide Draco and his mother where Voldemort would never find them. Draco ultimately could not bring himself to kill the headmaster, even after the arrival and encouragement of several Death Eaters, who were smuggled into the castle by Draco. However, Snape, who had been called by Phyllis Flitwick to assist the Order of the Phoenix, some time previously arrived at the tower, and, after Dumbledore pleaded with him in a way that did not expose Snape's true intentions, killed the headmaster, blasting his body off the tower and falling to the ground below. A while later, after the battle was over, Harry found Dumbledore's body lying dead on the ground in front of hundreds of staring people, his body broken from the fall. Harry found the locket and read a letter written by Rap, and realized that it wasn't a Horcrux, meaning that locket was fake. Harry neither knew or cared that this message went, and he felt that he and Dumbledore had accomplished nothing that night, and that the latter had weakened himself by drinking the potion for nothing. Harry started crying over Dumbledore's corpse, as well as strengthening his half-moon spectacles upon his crooked nose, and Harry was wiping a trickle of blood from the dead master's mouth with his own sleeve. Sometime in early July, a funeral was held for him, attended by Hogwarts students and staff, Ministry of Magic officials including Cornelius Fudge, Rufus Scrimgeour, Dolores Umbridge, and Percy Weasley, Centaurs, members of the Order of the Phoenix, except Severus Snape due to his covert status, and Mandagos Fletcher due to his imprisonment in Azkaban. Hogsmeade residents, including Dumbledore's brother Aberforth, Fawkes, Hagrid's half-brother Gorm, Mayor Pepple, Tom the Landlord of the Leaky Cauldron, Madame Maxime from Barbaton's Academy of Magic, bass player of the Weird Sisters, Donagan Tremblett, driver of the Night Bus Ernie Prang, Madame Malkin of the Robe-Shone Daganella, the lady who pushed the trolley on the Hogwarts Express, as well as many other witches and wizards. Albus Dumbledore's legacy was hugely significant and entailed by decades of suffering, torture, tragedy, success, love, prosperity, and everything in between. He was destined for glory by what he dreamed of and the aspirations he had during his youth, including that he accomplished in his early youth. Though in his youth he wanted to rule over the world of the non-magic people, he didn't do it in any bad matter, like his boyfriend Gellert Grindelwald tended to. He learned in his teenage years that power and being the best could end very badly, and was always not the best result. Though he did learn many things, for instance, he used the way he ordered things for his own good, as using and manipulating people, for instance, for the greater good.